Folks, speaking of guys from the Boston area, I believe Joe Rogan is from that area. That is where I first met him and last saw him, probably.
We played softball.
He didn't meet you, though.
Oh, well,
Ooh.
we'll see. We'll see. But this is really, I mean, this is really something. So Dave Rubin
This is a feast.
got off tour. And I don't know, which one should we start? Let's start with the building codes. I got to tell you, a lot of times we will play a clip of someone, and the reason why I play the clip is because I want to point out some of the falsehoods, maybe, or the misapprehensions, or the ignorance.
You're cleaning up the public record.
Cleaning up the public record. In this instance, I have to say, Joe Rogan already did it in many respects. And in some ways, this is just simply hilarious to me.
Extremely funny.
What's that? No, not yet. Let's play this clip. And I may stop it. Now, I also wanted to say that there was a clip from this same interview about the post office that still is bouncing around in my head. And Michael played it yesterday. I should have embargoed that, because I have never seen the depths of ignorance that were contained in such a small amount of content. Almost not every word, because of course words themselves cannot be ignorant. They need to be paired with other words so that they turn into even just brief phrases which would reveal the ignorance. The level of ignorance in his talking about the post office, you could almost take any three words. If you were to take the transcript and choose any three words in that transcript, there would be something so ignorant embedded in those three words that it would be impressive. But his ability to put them together into clauses and into statements and into sentences, it's almost like if it was an art project. But we do have him continuing on talking about building codes.
Directly after the
and I imagine, Rogan may have spent a little bit of time, with folks who build stuff, and anybody who knows anything about building knows why you have building codes. Maybe anybody who's bought a house too would probably know. Anybody who watched Homes on Homes?
Rented an apartment?
Yes.
Rented an apartment, been in a building,
Yeah.
walked inside of, or as referenced in this
Now,
clip,
here's the thing about
been
this
to a
clip.
country where there are not tough building code regulations.
Right.
Is another
or
way.
read about countries where there's
Or
not
read,
tough.
or
like the
seen
first
something
thing
on
you
TV.
read. Well, all right, let's play the clip.
That's the way you get them. You get them through the U.S. Postal Service.
But
you don't get them through UPS.
I'm pretty sure, though, that if the USPS stopped, it didn't exist anymore, you'd still get chickens delivered. And Amazon could probably do it even more effectively. That's my point. It's like, I'm not saying these things have to be eliminated tomorrow. I'm not even really calling for them.
Pause it. Okay. So Dave Rubin, we're catching the tail end of the post office thing, where Dave Rubin doesn't realize that Amazon relies on the U.S. Postal Service for a huge percentage of its deliveries. But he's just saying that Amazon would pick up the cost of that. I guess theoretically. Understand that Amazon's retail business does not make its money. I don't know if they're net cash negative still, but most of their money comes from their server, their electronic server thing. The delivery mechanism. There's so much stupidity just even involved in the tail end. This is not even part of the clip. And there's so, it's so dumb.
The tail end that you're catching there is him just basically using an example to bash the post office. Then Rogan be like, "Oh no, wait, you're actually talking about the post office," and him being like, "Oh yeah, but I still think it would be better if not."
Right.
Like that.
No,
That
there's
was
so much, but there's
literally
just so
his
much
recovery.
ignorance, so much ignorance in it. It's just stunning. And yes, he's saying like, well, I'm not even talking about what I'm talking about, is what he's saying here.
He
But
ends this one
this isn't even the clip that we wanted to talk about. This is just the tail end of the last clip. But go ahead.
really calling for them to be eliminated, but just generally, what problem would you, everything you're building here right now, right? Do you want the government to tell you how to do all these things and all the regulations that you got to have your electric thing this far from this and like all of
the regulations like that for construction are important though. You do have to make sure that people don't do stupid shit.
But
make sure you
generally,
don't have a power line that's near a water line. There's a lot of.
But I would put most of that on the builders though. They want to build things that are good. Now I get it.
That's not true. Listen, people.
People are going to build
corners all the time. Like you have to have regulations when it comes to construction methods.
Pause it. Let me tell you.
Oh, that's not true.
Most people know this. But if you didn't, you could watch, like I say, like Homes on Homes. Like there are multiple TV series on Home Improvement Network that are just about builders not knowing code, not building to code, building stuff that there's like mold in the walls, the electrical system keeps shorting out because it's too close to the water, they haven't done the drainage system correctly, they haven't done the air duct system correctly. I mean, this goes on and on and on. I mean, I mean, you don't have to have listened to this show to talk about the massive lawsuits in terms of builders cutting corners. In fact, the whole bedrock of regulations is because in the pursuit of money, people will cut corners. And they will do so even if it means harm to other individuals.
Even with Yelp reviews?
Even with Yelp reviews. And apparently Dave Rubin's not aware of this at all. But the best is to look at the expression on his face. Because if I was to critique, and we still have a little bit more left of this in this
clip. A lot more of this.
But if I was to critique this clip at all, I would say to Joe Rogan, release just the camera 2 shot. I want to see Dave Rubin's reaction throughout all of this.
When Rogan's speaking.
Because the look on Dave Rubin's face every time they cut to Rogan, because Rogan just completely shut him down, is like a lost puppy. A lost puppy that realizes he's drowning and is trying to salvage himself. But continue.
That's not true. Listen, people
people are going to build
corners all the time. Like you have to have regulations when it comes to construction methods, or people are going to get fucked.
They cut corners when there are regulations anyway.
They do. They would cut a lot more if there weren't regulations.
I'm not totally.
You go to third world countries and look at construction methods.
Pause it for 1 second. So Rubin uses the defense. Well, you can have laws, but people are going to break them. So under that theory, right, there would be no laws because every law has been broken at least once. So why have any laws?
Why not just have the purge 24/7?
Right, exactly. It's just a constant rotating.
You'd be incentivized not to purge because you'd want people to hire you to build.
HGTV needs a purge.
All right, go back a little bit and then play.
A lot more if there weren't regulations.
I'm not totally.
You go to third world countries and look at construction methods, they're fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
That's why schools collapse on kids in foreign countries sometimes. Like,
well, I'm not telling you that I'm against all regulation, period. That's where I said intellectually I like that argument because you could make it, I think you can make a very sound argument that competition would force people to do better work.
Pause it. In fact, we have now moved to Dave Rubin saying that maybe someone else could make a sound argument that competition would force people to self-regulate. I apparently don't have the ability to do that, but I'm aware that there are people who do that. But I have shown that even though I am paid on my show by people who professionally profess this, right? He gets money from the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers' raison d'etre as a political force is to unshackle their businesses from regulations that prevent them from maximizing their profits at the expense of society. To put their externalities out on other people. In other words, consumers are going to pay, citizens are going to pay for our profit by either, paying for the health care they need for their asthma or, paying for the cleanup that they need to make sure that their rivers aren't poisoned or whatever it is. I'm going to externalize these costs in my profit making. Dave Rubin is paid by these people. And Dave Rubin can't even make the most basic argument to it. In fact, he can barely escape by saying, I'm aware that there are arguments about this. I can't articulate them. I mean, here's the thing about Dave Rubin that is most appalling to me. I don't think Dave Rubin has read upon any of the topics he's talked about for more than 5 minutes, maybe ever. Like, if you know you're going on a show, and maybe he thought that Rogan wouldn't in any way question him whatsoever. But if you're going to go and make an argument that, private enterprise could do better than the government, you don't choose the post office, which is arguably one of the premier examples of the development of civilization that we have. Like, the Postal Service is, what it does is so amazing that it provides postal service to almost every single corner, if not every single corner of this country, is amazing, and it does it with zero tax dollars.
And it's such an enlightenment / free exchange of ideas idea of an origin anyway.
It is like, it's the pinnacle. It's like the foundation of everything that he pretends to argue for. Like, it is, I could see you saying like, you like the DMV? Just because that's the most hack thing.
That's the hack one.
Well,
right?
but the problem is, of course, there is no federal DMV. Right? There's only states which he would like to have.
Sure, he doesn't know that.
No,
though.
he doesn't know that.
I'm surprised he
But
didn't use DMV.
the post office, as a federal agency, the only thing that has inhibited the operation of the post office, ladies and gentlemen, is the Republican Party. And their attempts to force the post office to privatize is the only thing that has inhibited the operations of
But
the
you
post
could make
office.
a very sound case that with like Amazon and drones and blah blah blah, that like things will like prices will lower.
Yeah,
and
you could.
such.
You could, but I can't. One could, but I can't. I'm
a
not
lot
going
of
to.
other people make
There's an
those
obvious-
arguments, which I just completely humiliated myself
It's
in
just like,
attempting to make.
do 5 minutes of reading. Like, if you're going, like, Google some of the words that you intend to use and just read what you find at the end of them.
I'm more interested in ideas.
At
kind of
least
big
go
picture.
to Liberty University, who gives you your funding or whatever it is, the Liberty Foundation,
Prager or something.
Freedom Foundation, and watch one of their videos so at least you can regurgitate their points and, practice it. Practice it with somebody so that you can not make a total ass of yourself. For gosh sakes, you make a living at this. You make a damn living espousing this bullshit. Don't you feel some obligation to read 5 minutes into an argument so you can avoid the most you want to talk about building codes?
And by the
Like,
way,
You picked both those topics.
and let me
too.
just say,
it's like,
Dave,
this is like the low
and
hanging
if
fruit.
these videos upset you, think of them as Yelp reviews to incentivize you to do
Yes,
better as a small
yes.
businessman.
Yes, in fact, I mean, I feel like the government should step in and regulate what you're doing because obviously, clearly, you're not doing your job
There
well.
needs to be a federal bureaucrat who says, look, you can advocate all of the demented nonsense you want. We have a First Amendment. But if you're going to do it in such a recklessly incompetent way.
I mean, you need an example of why a builder might cut corners and deliver a subpar product? Watch your videos of yourself. You want an example of how someone could continue to make money hand over fist and not know what they're doing? Look at your YouTube channel. Look at your bank account.
look within.
Exactly. The truth lies within
Refresh
you.
your Patreon page. The truth lies within your Patreon analytics.
Exactly. My gosh.